Hello, beautiful people. My name is Kristen. Thank you for stopping by my channel. I am going to be reviewing books that I have read recently. Some of these were actually read at the end of April and some of them at the beginning of May. But I didn't think that it really mattered exactly when I read them as what and why and what I thought about them. I'm going to review them my least favorite to my most favorite. So if you just are looking for the good recommendation, fast forward to the end and catch the end. If you like to hear me kind of parse through some of the ones that I struggle with, just watch the beginning or flip along until you find the book that you're interested in hearing about and listen to that one. So I do have about 10 to 12 books that I have read in the past month-ish that I need to catch up and want to share with you. So maybe you can find one of these to either avoid, or it could be one that I don't like, but you say, gosh, that sounds right up my alley. So I did include two audio books. One of them is going to be at the bottom of my stack and one of them is actually going to be at the top of my stack. So we will start at the bottom. I listened to 6 Days in Bombay. This is Alka Joshi. She has some beautiful writing and I really appreciated the first part of the story, which starts with a woman who is in Bombay being a nurse caregiver to a woman who's kind of mysterious, has a lot of beautiful art pieces, and she basically passes away having become instantly very close to this nurse and leaving her the artwork. And I really enjoyed that dialogue, that part of the book. When it goes into the second half, the premise is basically the nurse now going into this woman's past and learning about the reality of her life through visiting the different people that she wants to gift her artwork to or leave her artwork to. And it got a little convoluted. I just lost interest. So I decided I was just going to not finish listening to that particular book. It just wasn't quite for me, but it may be for you. The other one that I did DNF was actually one that I had really been looking forward to, Jennifer Weiner's Mrs. Everything. And the funny thing is this is a great title for this book because this book tries to pack in everything. And if you like that kind of book, the kind of book that is addressing racism and LGBTQ issues and trying to do global warming and political power and all of these kind of things. Like there's a couple sisters, and between the two of them, it seems like they come in contact with like everything. There's different forms and types of abuses, different types of issues and eating problems, and between the two of them they get it covered. And I again just got really bogged down and disinterested. Like it was too much. So if you're kind of waiting for that kind of ride, or you're looking for something with a whole lot of everything, this would probably be a good book for you. I did appreciate the relationship of the two sisters and taking on some of those issues, but it just wasn't quite the book for me. And I'm not sure that author is quite the author for me. That was a new author to me. So we'll see. I may pick up another book, but I'm less excited about it now. On authors I was excited about, I had a Wilkie Collins, A Rogue's Life, to try to break me out of my reading slump. And it's hilarious because this is a nice little short one of his. And this is the least favorite book by him I've ever read. When I went back and read some of the commentary after I had read through it, like, was it just me? Am I just in that kind of mindset? The critics even say this is one of his least entertaining, well-written books, and thankfully it's short. And the idea is this guy goes through life trying to find his purpose, trying to find his place, and he's even trying to try on the hats of being a forger or being somebody who swindles, but then at the end he tries to basically turn his life around to have integrity and be reformed, right? And it's supposed to be a little tongue-in-cheek, a little campy, and it has some of that flavor. It does. I love Wilkie Collins' writing, but it is one of his least. I don't necessarily recommend it. Certainly do not start with that book as your first introduction, because he has so many that are beautiful, and that one's just okay. I also read The Goodbye Cat. This is by Hiro Arikawa, and I had read the Traveling Cat Chronicle, so I really wanted to pick up this one. This one is a collection of like 7 short stories, which is a little more difficult for me because I really like to do deep dives into my characters. It did have some of the same characters and even part of the same story as the Traveling Cat Chronicles, and the individual stories were sweet, but they felt too short to me. They didn't do that deep dive that I really like to go into. So again, another book that wasn't bad, but I was kind of hoping for something more, maybe. We started to pick it up by a surprise. I decided, you know what, I'm going to go in for a chunker book that I've been kind of looking at for a long time now, and that's Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged. So this is a monster book. This is over 1,000-page book, and it's a classic that is a dystopian, futuristic, alternate kind of United States where you're really doing a dive into capitalism and the philosophical nature of how things should be, what should be the purpose and intent of life, individualism versus community. And the characters are really told from the standpoint of the upper class, right? Like, I was thinking a lot when I started reading this about the movie Metropolis, which is like this old German movie that you're looking at the blue collar workers, kind of like 1984 kind of thing, where they're being oppressed. And this is kind of the opposite storytelling, where you've got those with a lot of intellect that are trying to run society, trying to support the economy, the flow of bettering life, making things more convenient and easy, but the system wants to shut down and mold people. And there is a little bit, not supernatural, but there's a definite mystery that's going on here that kind of breaks halfway and shifts the whole story into a different direction. It centers a lot around railroads, which I loved. I loved the aspect of the railroad, talking about we've got to do the steel and we've got to do the copper and we've got to get all these parts and we've got to have progress and we've got to have the build, and the writing was very immersive and drew me in, and I was very invested, and I really liked the plot twist. And I do have to agree, after I finished the book, I read a bunch of commentaries and kind of like, what did I miss? Because it feels like it has so much richness to the symbolism. And I was like, I think a lot of this was probably over my head even. Like I was enjoying it more at a surface level. And so I was reading up on it, and I did miss some of the deeper dives into what it was saying about greed and capitalism and those kind of things. But I had to agree with a lot of the criticism that said that it's, particularly at the end, it gets wrapped up very tidy. Like it becomes very black and white, and people behave very almost extreme. Like if you're the good guy, you're going to do the hero part, and if you're the villain, you're going to do the villain part, where I think it's way more nuanced in reality, that people wouldn't have made those extreme choices, especially at the end. So I think it was well worth it. I do highly actually recommend this, particularly when you're in the mood for that kind of philosophical, kind of debatey kind of book, and just want to have some of those classic kind of conversations and wording. For my nonfiction, I picked up The Devil's Backbone by Jonathan Daniels. This is a historical account of the Natchez Trace. It goes a lot in depth about Aaron Burr and Hamilton and Andrew Jackson and all of the kind of founding fathers and what was going on. It has a lot about the atrocities of the Native Americans trying to establish land. How did the settlers and the pioneers and all of that work out? And it actually, even going back to like Lewis and Clark, those kind of things, it kind of helped refresh my memory on some of those historical things and put them more into a context that I hadn't really thought about before, because I hadn't looked at that particular part of the country, particularly along the Mississippi River. And so I really enjoyed it. It is a struggle because it is written in a way that doesn't denounce the extreme atrocities of both taking away from the Native Americans and the issues of slavery. It doesn't at all do justice to the fact of how atrocious that was. So that's a difficult part of that read. But it is part of history. So if you're reading it in the context of history, you get to learn a lot. I did a buddy read with my good friend Berna, and we read The Wiregrass by Pam Weber. So this came in as now a book that I really enjoyed, and I particularly enjoyed it because I read it with Berna. It has some difficult concepts. It is basically a summer with a bunch of cousins. They encounter another young boy who is wrapped up in a lot of abuse. A lot of his family is connected to basically the crime scene of this small backwater kind of Mississippian community. And it's a hard read, and those kind of children are in harm's way and things are going not well. So that hurts your heart, and it's a hard thing to read. But this particular writing is extremely atmospheric and beautifully told in a way that I didn't feel like it was over the top or graphic or gratuitous in its own right. It was honest and raw and emotional. And I'm glad I had a buddy to read it with to kind of go through with it. But if you're up for that kind of read, this is a well-written one. Another one that was difficult for the themes of it, but beautifully written, Stories from the Tenants Downstairs. This is Siddiq Fafana. It's a low-income apartment complex. It has this beautiful poem that kind of sets the tone and flavor for it, and each of these stories is somewhat connected to the others because they're neighbors or they're in the same neighborhood. But it really does a intense look at each person's issue, whether that, all of them are financial in some regard, but if they are trying to support a child, or they're trying to figure out a way to get education, or they're trying just to literally scrape by every single penny, or they've got a great idea, but the things that are holding them back to actually break out and come up with their own plan to bring themselves out, or all these kind of different issues. And it's just one of those experiences where you're just taken along step by step, and you just sit and you just feel and you just are with these people. And I think this is one of those books that if everybody read it, we would have a little bit more understanding or empathy for one another. There's a lot of things that just are. They just are what they are. And this is a way to experience somebody else's reality. Then getting into books that are really good, that I just 5-starred, I'm going to give it up for Wayward, Amelia Hart. I love this cover too, by the way, with the bugs and fruit and the raven on it. And this is set in 3 different timelines with 3 different women. Each one is connected to one another. They are related. They have some kind of inherent gift inside of them that allows them to be exceedingly connected to nature, kind of supernaturally able to not talk to animals and bugs, but to have that kind of empathetic awareness. And so therefore, over the different time periods, whether it is a couple hundred years ago or 100 years ago, they are seen with suspicion, maybe even held accountable as witches, and or looked to be healing women. And they're looking for their identities, their heritage in this. And again, just very atmospheric, very well written, that I was invested in all three stories. I really loved the characters. A couple times I didn't want to put the book down when I was supposed to put the book down because I wanted to find out what was going to happen next. I very much look forward to reading her other book that I have picked up, The Sirens, to see how that book goes. If you've read that one, leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think. But I highly, highly recommend this. I had a really great time with it. 5-star. This one's near the top. But my very favorite book that I read in the past month was an audiobook that I listened to. I'm going to give it up for Fredrik Backman's My Friends. And I'm not sure if enough people are talking about this. I've kind of been busy and distracted and away from the booktube community, but I hope a lot of people have been reviewing this and talking about it. It is the best of Fredrik Backman, where he does that kind of storytelling where he's going to set something up like, hey, there's something really eerie about this. Hey, this is the best of the best. And then he tells a story, and then he kind of sucker punches you at the end and says, and that's what happened, and this is the point, and that's exactly what we got. You know, he does this beautiful job of just crafting his words so that he anticipates, he tells a story, and then he drives the point home without it being obnoxiously in your face. And the storyline on this particular book is a group of really super close friends that were at the sea, and one of them is an artist and has done a painting. And there is also, so this is in the retelling of these friends' lives and the meaning behind this painting, but it's being kind of told and presented to a young girl in the present. And she also has a very interesting, gripping story, being a foster care child who has seen a lot of life and is really kind of ready to deal with some of these other issues that are part of the story of the friends. And I just felt like it was a combination of My Little Life and Little Women and all of the other really 5-star Fredrik Backman that I've read, such as Bear Town, and some of those, particularly the ones that did have the coming of age and the teenagers. I just think that this is a beautiful, beautiful book, and I predict this will maybe end up in my top 10 of the year. I want to go out and get the physical copy and reread it physically now that I have listened to it on audiobook. So I do highly recommend the audiobook version, although I think the physical copy will also be a very good read. But those were my books. Have you read any of these? Do you want to read any of these now? Are there any of them that you think, gosh, if you like that, you should like this, Kristen? Leave me a comment below. I look forward to meeting you in the comments. Hope that you are doing well. Have happy reading. Take care, my friends.